gear up for the last 150 days of your prelims preparation and what to do in the last 150 days. Hi, hello, this is Arjun R. Shaankar and welcome to LearnStroke. Today we are going to discuss about a very important topic, perhaps the most important topic that every UPSC aspirant wants to listen to. That is, I'm going to discuss about the topic of final lap. That means entering into the last 150 days of your preparation before the preliminary examination. I know this is the period which creates a lot of heat inside your mind. The heat and pressure actually accumulates in your mind, and everybody is in a tense situation. Pressure builds up. People get worried about the preparation. Is this preparation enough for me to crack the civil service examination? All these are the most important pressure that builds up in the last 150 days of your preparation. So in this session, let's discuss and decode the most challenging things that you should do in the last 150 days of your preparation, which I call as the final lap of your preparation. I know all of you have different kinds of questions. Different kinds of questions are actually stirring in your mind. You have absolute confusions and lot of fear and apprehensions how to perform in the last 50 days. So in this session, we will decode and find out the most challenging things and how to overcome each and every problem with great solution. So welcome to LearnStroke's exclusive section where we'll discuss how to gear up for the last 150 days of your prelims preparation and what to do in the last 150 days. Before we move out to finally decode the real problems that lies in every aspirant, I know everybody has got tension, difficulties, anxieties regarding the preparation, which eventually will be discussed and decoded in this section. Before moving on to that, we'll introduce a very fascinating thing which we created, and we affectionately call it as the PP box, which is called as the People's Pulse box. Is basically the voices of aspirants, and we call it as what India said. This is what India said, and that basically generates the voices of aspirants and basically are questions like you have in your mind. So let's take a close look at PP box and find out what are the real doubts or anxieties that normally builds up in an aspirant's mind before 150 days of your preparation. Let's check it out. My subject coverage, even after my 6 months of preparation, is absolutely weak or absolutely zero. That's a very alarming situation in many of the aspirants' mind. Don't worry. My test series marks, in spite of writing a lot of tests, the marks are always a complete disaster. That can be a bit heartbreaking, but don't worry folks, it has happened with me. We'll overcome it. I have skipped subjects which I don't like, and I have skipped subjects like economy, environment, and science and technology. That can be a bit dangerous for the preparation, but still, that's something that should be kept in your mind. My current affairs analysis, even after learning a lot of newspapers and magazines, are still very bad. I seriously don't know what has happened when. That is a real big problem which needs to be done. But don't worry, this also can be fixed. I don't know anything. This is a very puzzling thing that comes to many people's mind. Even after preparation, it says that you don't know anything. That is a complete blank feeling that most of the aspirants have. But this also can be easily solved. Let's rock it. This is a group of category of people who believe that in the last 6 to 1 year of their preparation, they feel that they have not done enough, or they have done it a mixed up preparation, and in the last 150 days, they believe that they are going to give their complete best and rock their preparation. There are also people like this. So these are some of the most important reflections that we got in the PP box. Let's keep this in mind, store it, keep intact in your mind so that you get a reference to this. So let's keep it strong and get straight into the session and strategize the final lap, the 150 days of your preparation, what should be really done. The first step of strategy before we move on to the real strategies is to plan your arsenal. So just check out the arsenal and pick out the most important or crucial things for your examination at this point. We are almost 150 days away, and you can see a lot of things in the arsenal which you should have already done. Now it is going to be a final lap. So pick out the things which are only crucial at this point. I think a very serious or veteran aspirants who have already prepared or given a 2-3 attempts must have already got that subject with or a wider base to prepare. So those aspirants can actually still continue answer writing or practicing answers if they really want. But if you feel that, just like the PB box said, you've lost almost everything and you're just clueless or directionless, I think the most important thing is to pick out the strategies or the most important things from the arsenal, which are called the subjects or the core subjects, which includes history, geography, economy, polity, environment, and science and technology. And pick out the most important thing, the other vertical called as the current affairs. So these are going to be the most important topics or crucial things or crucial pillars at this point. The core pillars of subjects like what I've discussed and the current affairs. If you are a confused aspirant or if you find a lot of difficulty in preparing, I think pick out these two things from the arsenal and entirely focus 150 days on both of this. So it's always going to be a balance of subjects as well as the current affairs. These are the most thing in the last 150 days which we have to really work upon. So the question is, how are we going to work on the content side and how are we going to work on the current affairs side? If you work really well on both the sides, I think success is something a few steps away. So let's decode and find out how effectively we can actually do this. Now, after planning your arsenal and taking out the most important contents like current affairs as well as the basic subjects out, now you clearly know what to focus and where to focus. Now the second important step is self-evaluation. How many of you have done this process of self-evaluation or found out how much you know or what is your weak points? Have you done this while preparing for the UPSC? This is where we come, and I want you to make a new thing called as my meter graph, something which looks like this. I want you to create something of this sort which is called as a my meter graph, both for the current affairs as well as for the basic subjects. So all you need to do is to create a my meter graph. On one column, mark all the contents like history, geography, economy, polity, environment, science and technology on the one side, and on the other side create a column and exclusively to score and give your preference. That means all you have to do is on the score of 0 to 10, you have to mark your score against each subject. All you have to do is please frankly mark your score or self-evaluation number against the subjects. Like if you have studied history and if you feel that you are a very strong person in history, on 10 you can actually mark say around 2.5, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 if you are very confident. So all you have to do is put that number frankly what comes to your mind, and it should reflect your preparation also. If you are a very good aspirant in economics and you feel that you are very strong in economics or you have a master's degree in economics, if you feel that you are very confident in that, all you have to do is just mark 7.5 or 8 against economics. If you feel that my Indian polity is very weak, my science and technology is so bad, so please indicate the score as far as your content is concerned. So all you have to do is just mark like this, put scores 2.5, 3.5, 6, 7.5, etc. And after completing this process, I want you to take a close look at this my meter graph and observe how much I know in each subject. This is the most important step that you have to do before you go for the final lab. And you have to do the same process for the current affairs also. What is your score from 0 to 10? How much are you ranking or how much are you giving for current affairs also? So if you complete this process, you have a scorecard. This is also going to be a reflection of what you really know. And my dear friends, all I want you to tell is, at this point, reschedule your preparation. If you see that on certain subjects like history or geography, you have a score of 8.5 to 9, and you see that in Indian polity or in science and technology, you have a score of 3.5 or 5, I seriously want you to reschedule your preparation. If you don't reschedule your preparation, or if you skip the subject you don't like, that is going to be really, really dangerous for your preparation. So reschedule your preparation. Take out the subjects that you don't know, take it to the fore, work on it, strengthen your preparation, and create that mark. So My Meter Graph's ultimate product is to reschedule your preparation, or to do that big self-evaluation that you should have done it. If you have done it, then we'll move on to the other important aspect. Once you have done your rescheduling of your preparation, I would also like to talk about an important thing, but a small but a big thing. It's about the unpredictable nature of the UPSC Civil Service examination. Everybody who writes the examination knows it very well that you are going to write a very unpredictable exam. So taking a cue from that, many people say that, oh, the question paper was absolutely unpredictable. I could not guess the answers to all the questions. I didn't even know where the questions came from. To all the people who have felt the same thing. This happens every year. This is what UPSC exam is all about. You will get a lot of unpredictable questions, but I'm talking about a safest path. In this session, I've been discussing something, probably about two things. One is current affairs as well as a basic thing. What is the biggest advantage of this basic pillars like history, economy, polity, geography, Indian polity? It goes the small main pillars. What is the big thing about this thing? Do you know one thing? You know how much the unpredictable nature the exam takes. You always have a safe route. That means everybody, you just need to pass this exam. That is the most important thing in this exam. It doesn't mean out of the 200 you have to score a 180 or 190. All you have to do is you have to just clear above the cutoff range, which probably will be out of this 200 will be around 100 or 105 or 110 is a safe mark. Take this from me. I don't know how much unpredictable the question paper becomes. My point is, you will always find a set of questions from the basic pillars of history, geography, economy, polity, science and tech and environment, which are the basic subjects. You will always get basic questions which you solve. You will clearly clear the prelims examination. So that means I'm talking about a safe passage of questions. Doesn't matter about the unpredictable nature. You forget about the unpredictable nature. Minus, you actually deduce that unpredictability. My point is, you will again find a series of pool of questions which are actually from the conventional areas. If you work on them, if you actually study them properly, you solve them correctly, you will even get close to 100 above. That is the biggest exciting factor about UPSC prelims examination. So that is why I'm asking you to study, focus entirely on the basic pillars of or the conventional study subjects. And for the time being, just forget about the unpredictability. After the My Meter Graph, rescheduling, and I even told about the unpredictability of the exam, how main pillars are going to be a safe passage for you. Now let's move on to the most important or the mega strategy for the last 150 days of your preparation or the final lab, which we call as the rectification list. My Meter Graph must have clearly reflected your weaknesses in all the subjects, and you also must have given scores to all the subjects also. Now moving on to the rectification list is actually a bigger concept from My Meter Graph. I'll explain it because I want you to find out or create your own rectification list. What did the My Meter Graph tell you? It must have told you that in Indian polity you are a bit weak. In Indian economy you have a small problem. Or in history you don't have the greater grasp of the subject. You know economics very well. You are a good expert in science and technology and even in environmental science. So My Meter Graph has basically given you a weakness in a particular subject. But is that sufficient? Is that sufficient to just know that, yeah, my Indian polity is very bad, my Indian history is totally gone, or I'm very good in economics? Does that reflection sufficient to clear this exam? There comes the most important aspect called as the rectification list. Just like you created the My Meter Graph, I want you to create something of this sort which is called as a rectification list. This is a much more complex thing than the My Meter Graph. You have to take some time. Patience matters a lot, and my dear friends and aspirants, you have to take this time off to create this rectification list. And all you have to do is, I'll explain in point by point. Number one, it is actually created for each and every subject. Let's take an example. I'll give you an illustration. Make two columns like this. One is the rectification list on top of that, and in one column, write the name of the subject on the top of that. You can just mark Indian history on the top of that. And below that, in my meter graph, you just gave a score to the subject. And in rectification list, all you have to do is just write Indian history, rectification list. All you have to do is take a chapter 1. Say an example, write 1857 revolt. That is your first subtitle. And I want you to write down the sub-points of the chapter. If it is an 1857 revolt, I want you to write down why the revolt happened, what are the causes, what are the significance, what are the main aspects of the revolt, which are the most famous leaders associated with the revolt, what are the main centers also. This is in one column. That means in 1857 revolt, as part of rectification list, you have to mark down each and every sub-points in it. And on the other side, I want you to mark a small thing called as positives. Positives is something that you'll mark here. And on the other side, you'll mark refinement. You know why I said refinement? Because for me, there are no negatives in life. There are always lessons and refinement. So let's take away the concept of negatives. So only you have positives, and you will mark a concept called as a refinement. And on the last side, you can also mark remark. If you want to write something, you can also mark remark. So this is something which looks like a rectification list. Rectification list, you have history, and on below the history, this is exclusively for 1857 revolt. And you see a series of statements or sub-points, and you see positives, refinements, as well as remarks. Now all you have to do is, for each and every sub-point, indicate your score, indicate your remarks against this. Significance of the revolt, positive. Causes of the revolt, positive. Centers of the revolt, there are a lot of centers for the revolt. They might even ask you a question for UPSC. Which of the following centers are correctly matched? If you don't know the center, it will be actually a big problem. And the leaders of the revolt of 1857, if you have a problem in that, please mark it in the refinement, centers, problem. Or just put a tick mark, I have a problem in the centers. And coming to the down portion, the leaders of the revolt, just mark a tick portion. And you might even mark a small remark, I have a problem with this. You know why this happens? Every time you study for this, or every time you have solved the question paper, you see that almost all the questions from the positive areas are something which I almost solved. But the things which I marked refinements are always gray areas for me. I always commit mistakes in this area. So that needs to be identified in this. And what is the out of this what is the out of this rectification list? You take the rectification list for history, and the first chapter is 1857 revolt. You see that out of the 10 subtopics, 8 topics are actually your 8 topics are your positives. And you see that 2 topics are something that needs refinement, or are the areas which I normally commit mistakes. So what is see the general out. Rather than just telling that history is something a very difficult area, you are getting into the depth of the subject and finding out the real problems like this. This is 1857 revolt. Do this for every chapter in history, in modern India, and even in Indian polity. Indian polity is also a very confusing area which people actually find it. Because you ask any questions to any aspirant about Indian polity, you feel that Indian polity is something that I know. But in spite of that, if you get a serious question, you feel that Indian polity is very confusing. So apart from just marking Indian polity as a confusing topic, let's get to know what are your top priority areas in Indian polity and how much you know that, what are the weak points. So apply the same logic for Indian polity in rectification list. Say you mark the area, President of India. You actually mark how is the president's election, what are the powers of the presidents, and what are the diplomatic powers, the executive powers, and the pardoning powers of the president. So you keep on marking the important subtopics of President of India, and you indicate your preferences like positives. Election of the president is positive. And regarding the pardoning powers, you know, that is the most challenging thing that aspirants normally have. What are the pardoning powers of a president? As you know, there are so many things, pardoning, commute, remission, it goes on. it is normally very challenging to all the aspirants. If I ask you to find out and tell me what are the exact differences, it's always a challenging thing. So you can mark the pardoning power of the president are refinements and the other powers as refinements. So take out the chapter of president and take out the rectification list and see yourself. Out of the say 10 or 15 topics, you see that 10 topics are already in the refinement area and the 5 areas are actually in my refinement areas or the positive areas. So now you very well know that in the chapter of president, my 5 areas are gray areas and are areas which I need to work on, or are areas which I normally commit mistakes. This can be even applied to geography also. Geography is something more of a science subject, and many of the aspirants who are not strong in geography face this main issue. Even you study climatology, oceanography, or you study climate so hard, and at the end of the day, if someone asks you how Indian monsoon occurs, everybody has that big thinking feeling that I forgot that. This is a feeling that comes in. You can also do it actually for the geography also. Take the same rectification list of geography, take every chapter of, say, the example, you can actually write the chapter of climate. You actually write all the sub-points and you mark the refinements as well as the positive and make remarks. And one thing that you should always remember is, you see your positives being written in the column and you also see the refinements being written in the column. Make sure your positives never fall into the refinements. And always understands the refinement section is something that we need to take it to the positive section and never take your positives to the refinement section. So that is something that you have to keep in mind. And this rectification list I've discussed about polity, economy, do it for all the main pillars. Do it for history, do it for economy, do it for geography, do it for environment, do it for Indian economy, do it for science and technology and all the major pillars. And it's a very, it might sound very complex, but it is worth the time that you invest. Because apart from the MyMeter graph, you just say that I'm just weak in that subject, doesn't matter. If you want to really crack this examination, you should really know what is your real problem. And your real problem can actually sometimes lie in small areas like this. Do it for all the chapters in all the subjects of the preparation and take the rectification list in front of you and find out the refinement areas and invest more time on that. That is the most important thing that rectification list plays in your preparation part. So this is the rectification list. It's a very tiring thing, but worth the investment, and I want all the aspirants to make a rectification list like this for all the subjects and just see the difference by yourself. Things are going to work well. Now you have planned your arsenal, you have the MyMeter graph with you, which clearly shows that which are the subjects that you need immediate attention, and you have already rescheduled your preparation and you have that mega rectification list in front of you, which is a clear indicator or a reflection of what you really don't know. And it is also a reflection of things that you really know well. Is it sufficient enough to clear or crack the exam in 150 days? The key aspect lies in one more important thing, which is called as practice. Practicing MCQs, because you know civil service exam, preliminary exam is all about bubbling in the OMR, and that is actually a strategic thing, and that is even an art. Some people take it as an art. Some people are so good at bubbling the OMR sheet that you actually see a lot of people cracking prelims every time they write the exam. And there are people who know a lot of content and who don't clear the exam, prelims exam, every time they write. So what is that? It is basically an art, and that art comes through practice. Without this, you are not going to clear the civil service examination. So you will have to find time in the last 150 days of your time in this final lap to bubble the OMR sheets and practice every day. I don't know whether you practice a lot of test series. It is absolutely fine if you practice any test series, you do a lot of things. My humble suggestion is that your practice should be done every day. Don't go to sleep without practicing at least 10 to 15 questions. And while you practice the questions, the ultimate agenda is not only to know the contents, but to know how the options work actually. So while eliminating the options and reading the questions which you don't even have an idea, there should be a process that goes into your brain. You see a question which you have absolutely zero idea. You see what are the options and then you find out an answer, that is an art. So there is a lot of logic, lot of thinking involved in this. This doesn't come overnight. You cannot do this in the examination hall right away. There might be 1% of people who might be able to do this, but I'm talking about the general public or general aspirants. This doesn't come overnight. You will have to invest time in this. So make sure, if you solve a lot of test series, absolutely fine. You solve a lot of questions, fine. Don't go to sleep in this 150 days without solving at least 15 to 20 questions, because that is going to be a big game-changing aspect in your prelims preparation. So kindly do this. We have discussed almost all the aspects, and coming on to the most burning issue or the burning thing that needs to be addressed is current affairs. Some people get a lot of hysteria hearing at this. Some people get a lot of anxiety. How am I going to cover this? In short, this is a very serious thing. Current affairs has always been very challenging to all the aspirants only because you don't get the sources. You have absolutely zero clue where the questions come from. They can ask anything from anything. So that is the most important thing regarding current affairs, and that makes it more challenging. We have rightly picked out current affairs from the arsenals, and now in the last 150 days, what should you really do is the question. Or how are you going to approach it? Normally people say that newspaper reading should have been done, and I don't know how many aspirants read newspapers on a regular basis. I see a lot of aspirants, while they start their preparation, they read newspapers continuously, and slowly they find newspapers as a very boring thing and slowly move on to magazines or other materials. This is something that people normally does, and talking about the final lap, especially in the 150 days, I don't think you can actually go back to the newspapers and read everything that you get. But I think two things at this point. One thing is, at least you can start reading newspapers, because UPSC asks a lot of questions from newspapers, which may not be reflected in the magazines also. But you can actually start reading the newspapers at least from now, because that is a basic part of being a bureaucrat. While you prepare for civil services, what I really feel is, it's not to get into the service by any hook or crook. Have a quality. So at least start reading the newspaper right now. If you have left it, find at least 1 hour for newspaper reading. Just go through mark all the important news and find the other things. And on the other part, since we have only 150 days, you might have to refer to different sources of current affairs which you really like. You can refer to all the sources which you like, but the only thing is that you need to plan it for the 150 days. While you rescheduled your preparation on the basis of the subjects that you know, that you didn't know, you also need to reschedule your current affairs preparation, because for 2021 prelims, what really is going to matter is, you will have to start preparing from at least August 2020. You'll have to start covering the topics from August, September, October, November 2020 to February, March, April, May. Roughly saying 9 to 10 months of current affairs. That is the range which we define, the range which UPSC can ask questions in this prelims exam. So how are you going to cover all those 9 to 10 months in one go? So while you reschedule your preparation, I also want you to reschedule your current affairs preparation also. And you can do it in the way that you want. And the only humble suggestion that if you want to take is, at least spend 45 minutes to 1 hour daily for newspaper preparation. If you really think that you have only limited time left, don't worry, that will really help you in the coming mains examination. So spend 45 minutes to 1 hour in newspaper reading, mark the most important news items from the papers and mark it as a lead items, and refer to all the information or the important sites that you refer. That will really help you a lot in the preparation. And coming to the rescheduling part, how are you going to reschedule this 10 months? So at least, in my suggestion, you should actually break it and study. If you people like break it and study, you can actually study in the 150 days, say in the 10 days, I'm going to complete the syllabus of August and September together. And also, while you take a past, you should also take the present also. If you are in February, while you study August and September, you should also take the subjects of February also. So in the coming next 15 days, you will take October and November, and you will complete March also. So like that, at one point, all of them will actually sync together. So this is one way of rescheduling your current affairs preparation and how to prepare it effectively. And also understand the main focus is not to load a lot of things into your head, because that is going to be an impossible task. You cannot start loading 10 months of contents continuously into your brain. The main point of attraction is to know the important concept, think about the concept, what is the concept all about, load it, and then move to the other concept. Rather than just mugging up all the news items, think about the event, what is that event, what is that whole thing, load few things in your mind, and then move to the other subjects. So while you talk about reschedulement, handle this 9 to 10 months of current affairs also, because that is going to be a game changer in your preparation. Now you have listened to almost so many strategies, and I don't think you are hearing this strategy for the first time. You have heard strategies since your first session or first class or the first day of your preparation. This is not something that you are hearing for the first time. You have heard hundreds and thousands of strategies in your life. But why is it going to matter? And I would like to also say a few things like determination, consistency, hard work, patience, etc. They are the most cliched words in preparation circles, especially civil service circles. You must have heard it again 100 and thousands of times about hard work, determination. But have you ever felt the real value of this before? If you have not, you will really find the value of this in the coming 150 days of your final lap of your preparation. Because from now onwards, the success quotient or the success mantra is going to depend upon all these matters like determination, consistency, etc. You can just check out this great track. Just imagine this great 400-meter track, especially the athletic track, or the 100-meter race as your civil service exam. And one of my favorite icon is Milkha Singh. Even before that movie Bhag Milkha Bhag came, I was an ardent fan of Milkha Singh's life and how he faced it. And just imagine, he is a topper who has done it. You can just see, if it was Milkha Singh or if it was you, and that 100-meter race that you see is going to be that final day of the prelims examination. In this 150 days of your preparation, what is the first thing that you will do? You know you will have to run that race. And in order to run and win that race, you need to practice every day on this field. You need to practice, sweat every day on this field. That is what is called as consistency. In this 150 days, I don't know, and I don't seriously want to know about the last so many months or so many years of your preparation. I'm more concerned about this last 150 days of your preparation. If you are able to run every day on this ground and prepare yourself, that is called consistency. That in civil service preparation applies. You have to do a routine of works consistently without break. That is what matters a lot. And the second thing, the ability for you to run consistently throughout this practice session is what is called as determination. Determination is that spirit that takes you or makes you run this whole thing. That means determination makes you consistent. So if you do this properly, on the 100-meter race, on the final lap, chances of you clearing with flying colors is so high. And one more thing to all the aspirants. I know it's a part of a dream. Everybody has a dream. You also have a dream. And you must be dreaming every day. The moment you start, the moment that gun stroke goes and you actually prance from the starting point towards the 100-meter finishing line, and how you clear off and win it. This is a dream that you dream every day. If you're an athlete, you must dream it every day. And this is something that UPSC aspirants also dream every day. You dream about seeing your name on that final PDF. Yeah, I've cleared the prelims examination. It's a great jubilant feeling actually. But that feeling is already done. You have dreamt enough. And now in the last 150 days, keep that dream away. Work on the field, run and finally win. So keep the dream away for some time and work for it at this point. That is my humble suggestion and request to all the aspirants who are preparing. So work on all the important tips that I gave. Even though it looks complex, try to inculcate and try to do it. It's worth the investment, worth the time. You will definitely feel that change. Do everything, mark it. Just do your practice session with consistency and determination, and you will clear the final lab with flying colors. It's just a matter of time. So my dear friends, be on the track, be on the preparation. It's just a matter of determination. Best of luck.